The movie A House of Dynamite from 2025 is an engaging thriller that tells a story of events surrounding an alarm about a nuclear attack on a major US city. It focuses on a very short time period between the moment a nuclear missile launch is detected and the moment it is supposed to hit a major city, and tells a story from multiple points of view. Beyond being engaging and brilliantly cast, with great performances, this movie intelligently discusses major issues regarding technology and society related to nuclear and defense technologies and the nuclear regime of our time. It is a discussion about technological risk when stakes couldn't be higher. Before we start, let me warn that this video contains spoilers, since it is impossible to discuss the movie properly without giving away some critical details. Also, my interest here is not to review all aspects of the movie, but to discuss those aspects related to technology and society. After getting us a little bit familiar with some of the key figures in the story, we learn of a ballistic launch heading eastwards from the Pacific Ocean. A crucial detail that will play a role in how this event unfolds is that it is not known where it is originating, that is, which country launched it. Minute by minute, we are updated by incoming information. First, that this is not a missile that will hit the Pacific or another uninhabited place. Second, that its trajectory is leading it to mainland USA. And third, that its characteristics are consistent with a nuclear bomb. A bit later, we will learn that this ICBM will hit Chicago and affect several other major cities in the US. The rest of the movie focuses on how the US government, specifically its president and key advisors and decision makers, are responding to this event, and it ends as the missile is about to hit Chicago. This entire sequence of events is roughly 20 minutes long, but it is told from multiple angles. In order to understand the discussion about nuclear weapons raised in this movie, we need to look at the history of the last 70-odd years. After the atomic bomb was developed and tested, it was used twice by the US on Japan as part of the Second World War. This was the first and last time to date that such bombs were used in conflict. As a result of the test and the aftermath of the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the horrific effects of nuclear weapons became clear. Among other things, it was realized that the impact of such weapons cannot be contained to small areas, that radiation lingers, and fallout may spread. In other words, it was realized that the nuclear bomb is a weapon of mass destruction, which by definition will claim civilians victims, and if used extensively will change the Earth's climate and may cause mass human extinction. The realization of the devastating nature of nuclear weapons gave rise to public opposition to them and to the movement for disarmament from the end of the 1950s and on. By the 1950s, both the US and the USSR possessed nuclear capabilities and the capabilities to use them against each other, despite a first strike from the other side. With these capabilities, the mutual assured destruction doctrine began, which has remained dominant to this day. This doctrine holds that such a situation in which countries cannot hope to use this weapon without being immediately subjected to it themselves will deter them from using it. So, according to this doctrine, paradoxically, having enough weapons ready to deploy at any moment is an assurance that they will not be used. Indeed, it is possible to associate the fact that no country has used the atom bomb since the US attack on Japan as a testament to the effectiveness of this doctrine. In effect, the history of the last 70 years has seen both mutual assured destruction and nuclear disarmament exist in parallel. While mutual assured destruction was at play since the 1950s, the movement for nuclear disarmament saw significant success, especially since the end of the Cold War. But this success was always partial. The superpowers reduced their stockpiles but never eliminated them. Moreover, this trend for reducing the nuclear weapon stockpiles has lately been reversed, with Russia and especially China increasing their stocks. Hence, much of the rise in nuclear weapon stockpiles should be associated with the end of the US's sole global dominance and the rise of China as a second superpower. If China is to be a superpower, according to the mutual destruction doctrine, it needs its own independent capabilities to strike back at the US. This recent increase in nuclear stockpiles can also be associated with Russia's growing independence from Western control and its own aspiration for at least regional dominance. This trend of proliferation is indeed the backdrop for the movie and is mentioned right at the beginning. So if mutual assured destruction works, what is the problem? Why not rely on it and forget about nuclear disarmament? One of the central answers to this has to do with the nature of technology and of human technology dynamics. Nuclear weapons are, at the end of the day, a technology, and like all technologies, they occasionally fail or malfunction. Sure, one can create safeguards, redundancies, and contingencies for what happens if this component fails or that component malfunctions. Yet the risk cannot be eliminated, only reduced. A good example of this exists in the aviation industry. Commercial aircrafts have precisely these safeguards, redundancies, and contingencies, yet occasionally airplanes crash. Moreover, all the tools we have in place to prevent accidents or unauthorized launches of nuclear weapons rely heavily on technology, as do the tools to destroy a nuclear weapon once it is launched. Missiles launched towards a deployed nuclear weapon can miss or malfunction, as evident from their partial success coping with conventional missiles. This is also what happens in the movie. Two missiles are launched in order to destroy the ICBM, yet one fails to separate and the other did not destroy its target. Indeed, no matter how many layers of technology we add in order to safeguard or protect from nuclear weapons, the risk lingers, especially since there are so many missiles to maintain, occasionally move, and keep in constant alert. Then we have the human factor. Technology is always linked to humans, even when it is made totally autonomous. The issue of the human factor as it relates to nuclear weapons has been examined in previous books and movies. For instance, what happens if a key person goes rogue or tries to deploy a nuclear weapon? In House of Dynamite, there is another discussion. Can humans really weigh critical decisions in such a short time span? This is why the focus of this movie on those 20-odd minutes was so brilliant. It is too short. Humans have difficulty keeping up with this deadly technology. Everything is happening too fast. Beyond this inability to keep up, there is a question of the choices. The mutual destruction doctrine makes sense only if deterrence is successful. If the fear of retaliation has prevented other countries from purposely or accidentally launching nuclear weapons. Yet if deterrence fails, decision makers are left with insane choices that do not make sense. Let's say you are such a decision maker, and as in the movie, all options to destroy these nuclear weapons failed. The destruction of one of your cities and millions of people is assured. Does it make sense to launch a nuclear weapon at the enemy? For what purpose? Deterrence collapsed. So what now? Revenge? Cleverly, in the movie, the decision makers do not know who launched the ICBM, so bombing China or Russia makes very little sense. Yet I would argue that even if they did know who launched the ICBM, it made no sense to retaliate. Maybe it was a malfunction or a rogue military unit. What is the point of retaliating before it is clear why this missile was launched? Indeed, the movie highlights the absurdity of nuclear weapon protocol for such scenarios. Last, I would like to briefly discuss the title of the movie. What would happen if you literally lived in a house with dynamite stuck inside the walls? You would probably put a lot of technological equipment to prevent this dynamite from exploding. You would also probably put in place a bunch of rules to avoid the risk of ignition. For instance, no open fire in that house, and the like. Yet, at the end of the day, given that all technologies fail, you are living in a house of dynamite. You cannot eliminate the risk, only reduce it. It is a bad choice to continue living in it. And this, I believe, is the message of this movie. The deterrence regime is a house of dynamite. The only way to fix it is international cooperation to reduce and eliminate the nuclear weapons stockpile.